All right, so have you ever actually stopped and thought about how much valuable stuff is just sitting in your business data?
Yeah, tons of it.
I mean, think about it, right? Like all the CRM data, AI stuff you got, social media, analytics, all those clicks and conversions, it's a lot. But is it really, I mean, truly working to grow your business, or is it kind of just like what's the word? Like a giant spreadsheet in the cloud that no one's using?
You're hitting on a huge pain point for companies. I mean, so many have built these, incredible systems for collecting data, but they struggle to actually use that data to make a real impact. It's like, you have a super fast sporting car, but you're stuck in first gear, right?
Total, like all that potential just idling. And that's exactly why we're doing the step dive. We're going to figure out how you can take the data you already have and make it work for you. Like really use it to boost revenue, really push forward your digital transformation and build a culture where every decision you make is backed by data. It's kind of like a cheat sheet for making your data a powerhouse asset.
And to break it down, we've zeroed in on five like core areas where businesses are seeing real success with their data. So we'll start with data clarity, getting that single source of truth. Then we'll look at how that sets you up for making smart decisions. We'll also cover how to give your customer-facing teams the data they need, how to get rid of those pesky data silos, and then finally we'll talk about using data to get ahead of the competition. Get that edge. Master these five things, and you'll be golden.
All right, so let's dive right in, shall we? Let's start with data clarity. Creating that single source of truth everyone talks about. But practically, what does data clarity even look like for a business?
Well, at its core, data clarity means that, all the data flowing through your organization, it has to be accurate, has to be reliable, and this is crucial, it has to be accessible to everyone who needs it. I mean, think about it this way, right? If everyone is working off different numbers, or if the numbers themselves are a little iffy, you can't get a clear picture of what's really happening. Data clarity means everyone is on the same page looking at the same facts. And that's super important for reporting and for making any kind of strategic recommendations.
Yeah, it makes sense. You don't want people running around with different sets of instructions. But why should, say, a director, someone at the top, really care about this whole data clarity thing? What's in it for them?
Well, for directors, it all comes down to confidence. I mean, they need to be absolutely sure that the data they're using to make decisions about growth is solid, rock solid. They don't want to be guessing, right? They need to see the big picture, understand how things are performing so they can confidently move forward with their strategies and actually achieve those big goals.
Right, they're steering the ship, so they need an accurate map. Now, what about investors, the folks who are putting money into the business? What do they care about when it comes to data clarity?
Okay, so for investors, it's all about that ROI, right? Return on investment. They want to be sure that the company is making smart choices that are going to lead to profits. And when a business can, clearly show that they understand how they're doing, and back that up with solid, in-depth data, well, that gives investors a lot of confidence. It reassures them that their money is being used wisely and that the leadership really knows what they're doing.
So it's like showing them, hey, we have a plan, and here's the data to prove it works. All right, and then there's those folks on the ground, the department heads, trying to, get their teams to hit those targets. How does all this data clarity stuff affect their daily work?
This is where data clarity can really make things smoother, right? I mean, department heads are often dealing with data that's all over the place. Different systems that don't talk to each other, which makes it a real headache to figure out how their team is actually performing. And then when they try to report on it, it's all inconsistent and messy. It's like trying to build something with mismatched parts. But when you have, that data clarity, when everything is together, department heads, they get a much better picture, and they can see what's working, what's not, and how their team is contributing to the bottom line.
So it's less about just gathering data and more about understanding what it actually means, right? And we have a perfect example of this. You mentioned secret escapes, right?
Oh yeah, they're a great example. Secret escapes, they really nailed data clarity. And the results were amazing. Their sales team, for instance, they used to spend like hours trying to put together the information they needed to close deals. And then after they got their data sorted, it was like minutes. It just shows you how much time and effort you can save when your data is clear and easy to use.
Definitely worth taking a closer look at their story. So we've talked about getting the data in order. Now, how does that actually help us make better decisions? That's our next key area. Data-driven decision making.
So data-driven decision making, it's basically about moving away from, gut feelings or just doing what you've always done. And instead you're using data, hard facts as your main source of information for every big decision. It's taking the guesswork out of it.
And there's some pretty compelling research on the benefits of this approach, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the numbers don't lie. The McKinsey Global Institute, they found that companies who use data to make decisions are way more successful, like 23 times more likely to get new customers, 6 times more likely to keep them, and a whopping 19 times more likely to be profitable. That's huge.
Yeah, those are the kind of stats that make you pay attention. So if it's so beneficial, what's stopping companies from going all in on data?
Well, a lot of times it comes down to those old systems, the outdated tech they've been using that just wasn't designed for sharing data easily. And of course, those data silos, the enemy of a good data strategy. If your data is all locked away in different places, it's practically impossible to see the full picture and make, truly informed decisions.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, right? So how do you actually bridge those gaps? How do you start making decisions that are based on data in a way that actually works?
Well, it circles back to that data clarity we talked about. Once you have good, clean data, data you can trust, then leadership can finally see like everything that's going on in the business. When you connect the dots between sales, marketing, customer service, all of it, you get a complete view of the customer journey. And then you can see like where you're strong, where you're weak, and where you have opportunities to improve.
So it's about connecting the data and seeing those bigger trends.
Exactly. And then transforming that connected data into something you can actually act on. I mean, just collecting data, that's just the first step. To be truly data-driven, you need to be able to analyze that data to make sense of it. And this is where, visualization tools come in. They can really help you see things, trends and patterns that you might miss if you're just staring at spreadsheets. And that makes it a lot easier to explain those insights to others and get everyone on board with using data to make decisions.
Right, because a good visual can often tell the story better than words. Okay, so now we have clear data and we're using it to make better decisions. But let's zoom in on the teams who are interacting with customers every day. Our third key area, empowering customer-facing teams. Let's start with sales. How can data, help them be more effective?
For sales teams, having access to the right data can be like having a superpower. It gives them all these insights that help them, close more deals, build stronger relationships with customers, and just be better at their jobs. And by combining data from all these different places like, past interactions, marketing campaigns, even customer service history, salespeople can get a much deeper understanding of each customer and what they need.
It's like having a cheat sheet on how to make your customers happy. Can you give me some concrete examples of how this data actually plays out in the sales process?
Sure. So let's say you have a potential customer. By looking at the data, you can see, what they've clicked on, what emails they've opened, what they've bought before, and then you can use that information to tailor your pitch to them. You can talk about the things they're interested in, offer them things they might actually want, and then you can also use data to spot those key moments when a customer is ready to buy. Like if they're, checking out the same product multiple times, that might be a sign that they're about to make a purchase, and then you can reach out at just the right time.
You're not just guessing. You're using data to guide those interactions. And we actually have some real-world wisdom on this from Frederick Tony at Partena Professional, right?
Yeah, he made a great point, which is that having data is important, but it's even more powerful when you combine it with the human element, the knowledge and experience of your sales team. When you bring those two things together, that's when you really start to see the magic happen.
So it's like data plus human insight equals sales success. Now, let's move on to customer support. How can data help them provide a better experience?
Data can really, take customer support to the next level by analyzing things like common issues, busy times, and frequently asked questions. Support teams can kind of predict what customers are going to need and be ready for it. Like they can update their help documents, give their agents more training, or just make sure they have enough staff on hand during those peak times. And then sharing this data with, with marketing and sales, that can help prevent issues from even happening in the first place. So let's say, for instance, customer support keeps getting the same question over and over again. Maybe marketing can tweak their product descriptions or create a helpful FAQ.
So it's about being proactive instead of just reacting to problems after they pop up. And then lastly, let's talk about the marketing folks. How can data, help them run better campaigns?
Well, for marketing, data is like gold. It helps them understand their audience, figure out who they are, what they like, and how they behave online. And then they can use that information to create campaigns that are more targeted and effective. They can see which, platforms are working best, what kind of content people are engaging with, and they can even track how their marketing efforts are actually leading to sales. And that's huge for proving their value and getting the resources they need.
Yeah, being able to show that ROI is a big win for marketing. Okay, so we empowered our teams. Now let's talk about a big challenge, those data silos. This is our fourth key area, eliminating data silos and finding those hidden trends. Why are these silos such a pain for businesses?
So remember how we talked about, having a single source of truth? That's the dream, right? But so often businesses are dealing with data silos, where information is stuck in different departments or systems that don't talk to each other. And this happens all the time. So, as different teams adopt their own tools and ways of working, the data gets fragmented. And then, you end up with these inconsistencies. You can't compare data from different sources, and it just makes it so much harder to get a clear view of the business.
Yeah.
And then you have people making decisions based on incomplete or even inaccurate data.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. And we have an example here of a company that tackled this problem, right? Burke Klaus at Mi Qualities Libres, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. He talked about how they used to, enter data manually and send reports by email. I mean, can you imagine? And then they switched to a self-service analytics platform. And it was night and day. Suddenly, everyone had access to the same up-to-date information, which made a huge difference in how they worked.
So what are some practical ways that businesses can break down these silos and start seeing those bigger trends?
Well, first of all, take a good look at your tech stack. See if you have any systems that are doing the same thing or that are just not playing well together. And then, simplify where you can. The fewer systems you have, the less likely you are to create those silos. And then, think about using a data lake or a data warehouse. These are basically central hubs where you can store all your data from different sources in a way that makes it easy to access and analyze. And then you also need a data governance strategy. This is like, the rules of the road for how you manage and use data. It makes sure everyone's on the same page and that the data is high quality. And finally, those visualization tools we talked about. They're really helpful here too. They make the data more accessible and it help people see those trends that might be hidden if the data's all over the place.
So it's about choosing the right tech and having those clear processes. All right, now for our final key area, using data as a competitive advantage. How do we move from just looking at past data to using it to get ahead?
I think the McKinsey Global Institute put it perfectly when they said that the real power of data is when you stop just using it to track what's already happened and start using it to predict what's going to happen next. Because in today's world, especially with all these new businesses popping up that are built on data, just collecting data isn't enough anymore.
Right. It's like having all these ingredients but not knowing how to cook with them.
Exactly. To really stand out, you have to build a culture where everyone understands and uses data. And you have to be creative with how you leverage it. And it's interesting, a lot of companies, I think Tableau said something like 85% want to be data-driven. But then when you look at how many actually are, it's way lower, like 37%. So there's a big gap there. And that's a huge opportunity for companies that are willing to really embrace data.
So in what ways can data give companies that competitive edge, like specifically?
Well, for one thing, it helps them make faster and better decisions. If you have access to real-time data, you can react to changes much quicker than your competitors. And that can make a huge difference. And then it can actually help with keeping your employees happy. If you give your teams the data they need and the freedom to use it, it can make their jobs more satisfying. And it can also help you identifying and reward your top performers. And that leads to, a better culture, which helps you, attract and keep great talent. And then finally, data can help you develop better products and services by analyzing data from, customer interactions. You can figure out what people really need and then create things that actually meet those needs.
Yeah, that link between data and employee satisfaction is something that I think a lot of companies overlook. And we have another great example here with wasn't it Ocado, the online grocery store?
Yeah, Ocado, they did a great job of using data not just to improve their own operations, but also to create new revenue streams. They actually used data to find new opportunities for the retailers they work with. It's a really inspiring story.
Definitely worth a deeper look. All right, so we've covered all these great ways to use data, but actually making that shift, actually going through that digital transformation, that can be a pretty big hurdle for some companies, right?
Oh yeah, it's a big undertaking. It requires, everyone in the company to be on board, and it takes a lot of planning and effort. Typically, it involves a few key steps. You have to audit all your data, figure out where it's coming from, how it's being used. You might need to build or upgrade your data infrastructure. You need a solid strategy that aligns with your business goals. And then you need to set up those clear data governance and processes.
So that's a lot to handle. Is it even possible to do all that internally?
Well, a lot of companies, they struggle with it. They might not have the people or the expertise in-house. And even if they do, their teams are already busy with other things. And sometimes there's just not a clear sense of who's in charge of driving this transformation. And all of that can lead to, projects going over budget, delays, and ultimately not getting the results they hoped for.
So what's the key to doing this right? How do you make sure this digital transformation is a success?
I think the most important thing is to make sure that the right people have the right tools from the very beginning. And for a lot of companies, it makes sense to bring in some outside help. Partner with someone who has that specialized expertise and a proven track record of helping companies go through this transformation.
Yeah, someone who's been there, done that. And our source actually mentions Bistoria as a potential partner.
Right. Miss Story, they offer like a full suite of services. They can help you develop your strategy, figure out which use cases will have the biggest impact. They can train your teams. They can help you find those hidden insights in your data, streamline your data processes, implement visualization tools, even manage your entire data infrastructure. They're big on the human element of all this and really work with businesses to make sure they achieve their data goals.
So to sum it all up, it's pretty clear that using your data effectively isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's crucial for growing your business, making good decisions, and staying ahead of the competition.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot today from laying that foundation of data clarity and using data to make decisions to empowering your teams, getting rid of those silos and using data to gain that competitive edge.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Think about one area in your business where using your data more effectively could have the biggest immediate impact. Like what's one thing you could do, even today to start getting more out of your data? Maybe take another look at those examples we talked about, Secret Escapes, Ocado. They might give you some ideas. And as always, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.